Even among the various stand users that exist within Passione, this duo stands out as a pair of monsters. That was a quote directly from the narrator of Part 5, and it's fair to say that both Secco and Cioccolata were two of the most threatening villains that we've seen in JoJo's to date. So, what is it about them that makes them so threatening? What is it that makes them so deplorable? I mean, firstly, it's foreshadowed by the boss, Diavolo, that Cioccolata is a piece of shit, just putting it out there. So, I mean, it's pretty telling that if your boss is calling you a piece of shit, then what is everyone else going to think about you? They're really two disgusting characters, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail as to why. So, looking at them individually, I suppose first we look at Cioccolata. So, Cioccolata is a person who likes to watch people suffer. He trained to become a surgeon, so he'd be in a position of power whereby he can see patients suffering. I mean, again, it's pretty telling that if he was willing to go to the trouble of studying, to the trouble of working so hard, because it's not easy to become a surgeon, to be in that position, then he's just not a good guy. And so he would tell patients bad things like, no one's going to visit you and your family doesn't like you, eventually driving them to commit suicide. He would also, I suppose, operate on people that weren't truly sick. He would misdiagnose them. He has given people false medication, and by the age of 14 he had already killed people and recorded their deaths. And this is a recurring theme. He really does like watching people die. That's where Secco comes in. He essentially becomes his cameraman. And I suppose all round, he's just, if you look at him, he's just a nasty looking fella. Like, I mean, he's not the kind of guy I'd want to go for a pint with, I'll put it that way. He's not a good guy. Not a good guy at all. And to top it all off, his stand ability is just really disgusting. Like, I'd hate to die. In general, I suppose, but to die of turning into mold is particularly brutal. He doesn't restrain himself from attacking civilians, and I suppose ultimately he got what was coming to him. I mean, he was arrogant in his battle with Giorno. He did a lot of damage to Mista, but he did get what was coming to him in the end, and he ended up, I suppose, in a garbage truck, which is probably a fitting end for him. I suppose it's not really clear whether him or Secco die in the end, but it was he was pretty beat up at the end of the battle, that's fair to say. So, moving on to Secco, and you might be thinking, how could it get worse? Well, Secco is by no means a saint either. I mean, he is portrayed as being somewhat dependent on Cioccolata. He's following his orders. He was a former patient of Cioccolata, and there seems to be some sort of power dynamic there whereby it seems that, I mean, it's quite possible that everything Secco was doing was just following Cioccolata's orders, even if it was truly horrible, recording people's deaths. But we actually find out that Secco has a lot more willpower than we expected, and not as much loyalty as we might have thought. So while Cioccolata on one hand, with his dying words in a voicemail, tells Secco that he actually loves him, it turns out that Secco now views Cioccolata as being weak. He recognises that he's lost. He actually spits in the camera and actually proclaims that he hasn't been following Cioccolata at all. That in actual fact, the only reason he was following his orders was because he perceived him as being strong. So it's clear that the friendship, or I don't know what was going on in Cioccolata's head, but whatever was there was not really reciprocated by Secco. I mean, towards the end of the fight with Bucciaretti, and by the way, Bucciaretti is left in an awful mess after this fight. I mean, Secco's abilities are again very dangerous, very damaging, and really do complement Cioccolata's, I was going to say green tea, but I'll say green day. Oasis does complement that ability really nicely. And Bucciaretti is actually left with ruptured eardrums at the end of it all, and he's in an awful state, to be honest. I don't know how that one's going to play out. And aside from that, Secco shows clear disregard for the general public. He destroys the roads that took so long to put down. He grabs Doppio, of course, not knowing that it's actually Diavolo. But yeah, I suppose that's not too uncommon in JoJo's, but still it's not good. It shows the kind of character he is. So that really sums it all up, I suppose. These two, I'll remember them for quite some time. They're two of the more memorable villains in JoJo's, but at the end of the day, they were deplorable.